This is for our new house. You don't need this anymore. My son and daughter-in-law showed up with a truck and stripped my home bare, taking my furniture, appliances, and even my paintings. But as they reached the gate, they slammed on the brakes and froze on the spot. I will never forget the day I watched my son Tommy pull up in that big moving truck. His wife Sarah jumped out first. She pointed at my house and said those terrible words. "This stuff is coming with us. You're too old to need it anymore." They walked right past me like I wasn't even there. They started carrying out my couch. Then my washing machine. Then the clock that hung on my wall since Tommy was a baby. I just stood there watching them take everything. But when they drove away and got to their new house, something happened that made them stop the truck so fast. They sat there frozen. They couldn't move. I never thought my own child would hurt me like this. I'm 73 years old now. For 50 years I gave Tommy everything I had. His dad died when Tommy was only 12 years old. A bad sickness took him away from us. I was only 23 when I became a widow. I held Tommy tight that night and made him a promise. You will always have what you need. I will make sure of it. Looking back now, I was silly to think children always love you back the same way. I worked at the factory making boxes. My back hurt every single day. My hands got cuts and bruises. But I kept going because of Tommy. The sound of the machines was so loud. It made my ears ring even when I got home. But every box I made meant money for Tommy. Money for his food. Money for his clothes. Money for his dreams. When Tommy said he wanted to go to college to learn about computers, I didn't think twice. I took out all my savings from the bank. Every penny I had saved for 15 years. I even sold my mom's wedding ring. The one thing I had left from her. I went to the jewelry store with shaking hands. The man there looked at the ring under a special light. He said he would give me $800. It wasn't much. But it paid for Tommy's first year books. For 4 years I worked double time. I took extra hours at the factory. I worked on weekends. I worked on holidays. My body was always tired. My feet hurt so bad I could barely walk some days. But when Tommy called me to tell me about his classes, I smiled. "Mom, I'm learning so much," he would say with a happy voice. And I felt proud. So proud. Even when my hands bled from the work, I kept going. I remember the day Tommy finished college. I wore my best blue dress. The only nice dress I still had. I sold most of my clothes to help pay his bills. When they called his name, I clapped so hard my hands turned red. Tommy looked so handsome in his black gown. So smart. So ready for life. "Thank you, Mom. I couldn't do this without you," he whispered to me. We took a picture together. I keep it next to my bed even today. I thought everything would get better now. I thought we could finally be happy together. We could fix up our old house. Maybe take a trip somewhere. But life doesn't always work that way. Good things don't always come to people who wait. Tommy got a really good job at a big office building. He started making lots of money. More than $4,000 every month. I was so happy for him. I thought maybe now we could spend more time together. Maybe fix the broken things in our house. Maybe go see the ocean like we always talked about. "Mom, I'm going to buy you a nice house someday," Tommy would tell me when he came to visit. But things changed. Tommy started coming to see me less and less. First he came every week. Then every 2 weeks. Then once a month. Then almost never. When I called him, he always sounded busy. Like talking to me was taking time away from something important. "I have a lot of work, Mom," he would say. "I'll call you back later." But later never came. One day, Tommy came to my house looking nervous. He sat down at my kitchen table. His hands were shaking. "Mom, I want you to meet someone very special," he said. My heart jumped with joy. I thought I would finally have a daughter. Someone to help me take care of Tommy. Someone to give me grandchildren. Someone to fill this quiet house with laughter again. I was so wrong. I was so very wrong. The first time I saw Sarah, I knew something was wrong. Tommy brought her on a Sunday afternoon. She was tall and thin. She had yellow hair that looked like it came from a bottle. Her nails were painted bright red and they were so long. She wore a fancy pink dress that probably cost more than all my clothes together. She wore shoes with tall heels that went click 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 on my floor. From the second Sarah walked into my house, she looked at everything like it was dirty, like my home made her sick. "Mom, this is Sarah. She's my girlfriend," Tommy said in a weird voice I never heard before, like he was sorry about something. I wiped my hands on my apron. I reached out to shake her hand. But Sarah barely touched my hand. Just the tips of her fingers. Like she was scared to catch something from me. Then she pulled out a tissue and wiped her hands. Right in front of me. "Nice to meet you," she said without looking at my face. "Please sit down." "I'll make coffee," I said. I tried to sound happy. But inside my chest felt tight. Something felt very wrong. While the water boiled for coffee, I could hear them talking in the living room. "Michael, did you really live here?" Sarah asked. Her voice was quiet but not quiet enough. "It's just until we get our own place, honey. We're saving money," Tommy answered. He sounded ashamed. Ashamed of the house where he grew up. Ashamed of me. When I brought the coffee out in my nicest cups, Sarah looked at them like they were trash. "No thank you. I don't drink coffee," she said. She pushed the cup away with one finger. "Do you have special tea? Or bottled water from the store?" Felt so small. So embarrassed. "I only have water from the sink," I said quietly. "Oh, that's okay. I'm not thirsty anyway," Sarah said with a fake smile. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. That whole first visit, Sarah kept saying mean things. But she said them like they were questions. Like she was just curious. "When did you last paint this house? Is this couch from a long time ago? Don't you get hot without air conditioning?" Every word felt like a slap. And Tommy didn't say anything to protect me. He just looked embarrassed. Like I was something he wanted to hide. "Michael told me you work at a factory," Sarah said. She was looking at my rough hands. My hands that were marked by years of hard work. "That must be tough. I bet you don't make much money doing that." "I do okay," I said. I tried to keep my head up. "Well, at least Michael doesn't need your money anymore," Sarah said. Her voice was sweet but her words were poison. "He makes enough now to take care of himself." Those words hurt me more than anything. For so many years, I dreamed of the day when Tommy wouldn't need me to work so hard. But I never thought it would mean he didn't need me at all. "Mom will always be important to me," Tommy said. But his voice was weak. He didn't sound sure. Sarah grabbed his arm and smiled big. "Of course, honey. But it's time for you to have your own family now. Don't you think?" The next few months were terrible. Slow and painful. Sarah made Tommy stop visiting me little by little. First it was the visits. "We can't come this Sunday, Tommy. We have plans," she would say every time he mentioned seeing me. Then it was the phone calls. "Tommy is busy right now, Mrs. Carter. I'll tell him to call you back," Sarah would say when I called his phone. But he never called back. Then came the lies. The little poison drops that made Tommy think bad things about me. "Your mom is too needy, Tommy," I heard Sarah say once. They didn't know I was nearby. A real mother who loves her son wants him to be free. She doesn't keep him tied up with guilt. I was washing dishes. My hands were shaking. I pretended I didn't hear. "You need to think about our future, Tommy. You can't be a mama's boy forever." Slowly Tommy changed. He stopped hugging me the same way. His smiles looked forced. When he did visit, it felt like a chore. Like something he had to do, not something he wanted to do. When we talked on the phone, he always wanted to hang up fast. "How are you, son?" I would ask. "Fine, Mom. Busy. Gotta go," he would say. And then he was gone. The first time Sarah came to my house alone was on a Tuesday morning. I was sewing buttons on a shirt for a neighbor. I heard her heels clicking at my door. "Hello, Mrs. Carter," she said with that fake smile. "I need to talk to you about something important." My heart started beating fast. I knew something bad was coming. "It's about Tommy and me," she started. She sat on the edge of my couch. She was careful not to touch it too much. "We're getting married soon." and we're looking at houses to buy. We found a perfect one. It has 4 bedrooms and a big backyard. In a really nice neighborhood. My eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. I thought she was going to invite me to the wedding. Maybe ask me to help plan it. That's wonderful, said. I put down my sewing. When is the wedding? How can I help? But Sarah's smile got colder. Well, that's what I want to talk about, Mrs. Carter. You see, the house costs a lot of money. Almost $250,000. And even though Tommy makes good money, we need to save every penny we can. I didn't understand where this was going. But something in her voice scared me. Tommy spends too much money on you, she continued. Her voice was sweet like honey but mean like poison. Buying you things. Visiting you. Worrying about you. We need that money for our future together. A mother who really loves her son would want him to do well. Right. Of course I want Tommy to be happy, I said. I was confused. I've always wanted the best for him. Sarah nodded like a teacher talking to a slow student. Then you understand that it's time for you to stop being a weight on him. Tommy needs to focus on his new family. Not worry about his mom all the time. Sarah's words felt like ice water poured on my head. Oh wait, I repeated. My voice was breaking. I've never been a weight on Tommy. I worked my whole life so he could study. So he could have everything he needed. But Sarah just looked at me with that cruel smile. Like my words meant nothing. Oh, Mrs. Carter. This isn't about the past, she said. She crossed her legs and fixed her pearl necklace. This is about now. And the future. Tommy isn't a child anymore who needs his mommy. Now he has grown-up things to do. With me. With the family we're going to make. Every word was like a needle in my heart. He needs to focus on us. Not be split between his wife and his mom. But I just want to be part of his life, I whispered. Tears were starting to fall. I don't ask for much. Just to see him sometimes. To talk on the phone. Sarah sighed like I was being difficult. That's exactly the problem, Mrs. Carter. You don't understand that Tommy doesn't belong to you anymore. Now he belongs to me. Her words hit me like a punch. Children don't belong to anyone, I managed to say. I love him. But I never tried to own him. Sarah laughed. Cold, mean laugh. Really? Then why is it that every time Tommy wants to do something with me, you show up with some problem, some need, some tears? Why do you always remind him of everything you did for him? I never. I started to say, but Sarah cut me off with a wave of her hand. Tommy tells me everything, Mrs. Carter. He tells me how you keep reminding him that you sold your things for him. That you work day and night. That you gave up everything. That's called making someone feel guilty. And Tommy is tired of feeling guilty. My world started falling apart. Was this true? Did Tommy really feel bad when I talked about our past together? I thought those were good memories. Beautiful memories of a mother's love. But maybe Sarah was right. Maybe I had been hurting Tommy without knowing it. I see you're starting to get it, Sarah said. She saw the pain on my face. Tommy needs space to grow. To be the man I need him to be. And you are not helping. You're keeping him like a little boy who has to choose between his mom and his wife. Sarah stood up and walked to my window. She looked outside like my house bored her. What do you want me to do? Yes. My voice was broken. Felt beaten. Sarah turned to me with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. It's very simple, Mrs. Carter. Give Tommy space. Stop calling him so much. Stop asking him to visit. Stop making him feel guilty for having a new life. She stopped talking for a moment. Then she said the worst part. And most important, stop depending on him for money. Money, said. I was confused. But I don't depend on Tommy. I work. I take care of myself. Sarah laughed again. That hurtful laugh. Please, Mrs. Carter. Don't pretend. Tommy told me he helps you with bills. That he buys you medicine. That he gives you money when you need it. That has to stop. The truth was that Tommy had been helping me a little bit. When my heater broke last winter, He bought me a new one without me asking. When I got sick and needed expensive medicine, he went to buy it for me. He helps me because he wants to, I said quietly. I never asked him for anything. That's what you think, Sarah replied in a mean voice. But Tommy says he feels like he has to take care of you. 'Cause you always tell him how lonely you are. How hard it is for an old woman to live alone. That's also making someone feel guilty, Mrs. Carter. I stayed quiet. Each word broke me more inside. Was it true? Had I been making Tommy feel bad without meaning to? Were my tears and my worries really a way of controlling him? I started doubting everything. Every talk I ever had with Tommy. Every moment we shared. I see you're thinking about it, Sarah said. She sounded happy, like a cat that caught a mouse. That's good. It means you really love Tommy and want what's best for him. She came closer and put her cold hand on my shoulder. If you truly love him, let him go. Let him be happy with me. And if I do that, I asked so quietly I could barely hear myself. If I step back, if I stop calling, if I refuse his help, will he be happy? Sarah smiled like she had won a big prize. Of course he will. Tommy and I will build a beautiful life together. We'll have children, nice house, trips to fun places. Everything he deserves after all those years of hard work. And me, I whispered. My heart was breaking into a million pieces. What happens to me? For the first time, Sarah's fake kindness disappeared. I could see the coldness in her soul. You've already lived your life, Mrs. Carter. You had your husband. You had your son. You did your job as a mother. Now it's time for you to let Tommy live his life. She walked to my door with confident steps, like she had just won a big battle. Before leaving, she turned one more time. I hope we can be a happy family, Mrs. Carter. But that will only happen if you understand your place in Tommy's life now. And then she left. The door closed behind her. I was alone with a silence that felt like being buried alive. I sat on my couch for hours. I watched the sun go down slowly. I thought about every single word Sarah said. Was it true that I had been suffocating Tommy? Had my love really become chains that tied him to a past he wanted to forget? Doubt started eating my soul. Like slow poison. That night I couldn't sleep at all. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling. I thought about every recent talk with Tommy. I looked for signs that Sarah was right. Maybe when I told him about my health problems, he didn't worry because he loved me. Maybe he worried because he felt forced to. Maybe when I reminded him of our times together, he didn't smile because of happy memories. Maybe he smiled because he felt he had to. When the sun came up, I made a decision that would change everything. If Sarah was right, if I was truly stopping Tommy from being happy, then I had to step away. Because if there's one thing a mother must do above everything else, it's make sure her child is happy, even if it means breaking her own heart. Over the next few weeks, I started pulling away from Tommy slowly. When he called, I kept our talks short. When he wanted to visit, I made up reasons why he couldn't come. When he tried to help me with money, I said no nicely. I told him I didn't need it. Every time I pushed him away, it felt like ripping a piece of my heart out. But I thought it was the right thing to do. Tommy noticed right away that something changed. At first, he seemed confused and worried. "Mom, are you okay? You seem different," he would ask when we talked on the phone. "I'm perfectly fine, sweetie. Just busy with work," I would answer. I pretended to be happy. But inside, every word hurt like swallowing glass. "Why don't you want me to visit? We haven't seen each other in weeks," he said. His voice sounded hurt. Really hurt. For a moment, I almost told him the truth. I almost told him what Sarah said to me. But then I remembered her words. A mother who truly loves her son wants him to do well. So I took a deep breath and lied. "I've just been very busy, Tommy. I have a lot of work and no time." But Sarah was smart. Very smart. She knew how to use my distance to help herself. "See, honey," she would tell Tommy after our cold phone calls. "Your mom is fine. She's busy with her own life. She doesn't need you like before." "That's good. It means you can be free. And Tommy, my sweet innocent Tommy, started believing that my pulling away meant I was better. He didn't know I was dying inside. The months went by like a bad dream. My days were filled with loneliness and empty work. I sewed clothes without joy, ate without taste. I slept without rest. The house that used to be filled with Tommy's visits now felt like a grave. Every corner reminded me of him. The chair where he sat to tell me about work. The table where we ate together on Sundays. The picture from his college graduation that still sat next to my bed. A reminder of happier times. It was around then that Tommy came one day with news. News that broke me completely even though I expected it. "Mom, Sarah and I are getting married in 3 months," he said. He tried to smile big. But I could see sadness in his eyes. "Aren't you going to say congratulations?" I forced the biggest smile I could. I hugged him tight. "Of course, sweetie. I'm so happy for you. Sarah is a special girl. I want you to know that even though I'm getting married, you'll always be important to me," Tommy whispered during that hug. Closed my eyes. I tried to remember everything. The smell of his hair. The warmth of his hug. The sound of his breathing. "I know, sweetie. And I want you to be very happy with her." The wedding happened in a fancy party room downtown. I went alone wearing my best purple dress. The one I sewed special for this day. I sat in the front row. But I felt like a stranger at my own son's celebration. Sarah looked beautiful in her expensive white dress. A dress that cost more than I made in a whole year. Tommy looked handsome in his suit. But during the whole wedding, he didn't look where I was sitting. During the party after, I stayed at my table. I ate quietly while I watched my son dance with his new wife. I tried many times to go talk to them. But there was always a group of Sarah's friends around them. Fancy people talking about trips to other countries and expensive houses. I didn't fit in that world. And I knew it. "Mrs. Carter, so glad you could come," Sarah said when I finally got close to them. Her smile was perfect for the cameras. But her eyes told me something clear. "You played your part. Now you can leave." "Congratulations," I managed to say. I hugged her quickly. "I hope you'll be very happy." "Oh, we will be," she said. Her voice was so confident it made me cold inside. "Tommy and I have so many plans together." After the wedding, Tommy's visits became even more rare. "We're very busy fixing the new house," he would explain when I called. "Sarah wants everything to be perfect before we move in completely." I would nod and pretend to understand. But inside I felt like I was losing my son piece by piece. Like every day that passed, he moved further away from the little boy I used to hold. The boy who promised we would always be together. The new house Tommy talked about with so much pride became a symbol of everything I couldn't give him. "It has 4 bedrooms, Mom. Huge backyard. A garage for 2 cars," he told me. He sounded so excited. "We're decorating it little by little. Sarah has really good taste." Every word was like a knife. Because it made me see how small my house was. How old. How not good enough. "When are you moving in?" I asked one day. Even though part of me didn't want to know. "In 2 months," Tommy said. "We have almost everything ready. We just need some appliances and furniture." There was a weird pause. Like he wanted to say something else but couldn't. "Is something wrong, sweetie?" I asked. My stomach felt tight. "Well, Mom, Sarah and I have been talking," he started. His voice sounded like he practiced what to say. "We realized you have a lot of stuff in your house that you don't use anymore. Things that could help us start our new life." My heart started beating fast. I knew where this was going. "What kind of things?" I whispered. "Well, your TV is really big for just one person, right? And your refrigerator is too big for someone living alone. Sarah says an old person doesn't need such a big fridge." His words felt like knives stabbing my soul. "And you have those beautiful paintings in the living room. They would look perfect in our new house. Dad bought them with so much love. Sarah thinks it would be nice to keep them in the family." I was quiet for a long time. I was trying to understand what my son was asking. These weren't just things. They were the last pieces of the life I built with his father. The real memories of our family. Tommy, I said. My voice was shaking. Those things are all I have left of your dad. Of our life together. But Mom, it's not like we're stealing them, he said. He laughed nervously. A laugh that broke my heart. You can always visit us and see them. Besides, aren't you happy knowing they'll be with your son? His words were exactly what Sarah taught him to say. I could feel her poison in every word. What if I don't want to give them? I asked in a whisper. I knew I had already lost. Tommy sighed like I was being difficult. Mom, don't be selfish. Sarah and I are starting our life together. We need all the help we can get. You already lived your life. Now it's our turn. Those words. You already lived your life. They went into my heart like poison arrows. They were exactly what Sarah told me months ago. And now they were coming from my own son's mouth. Okay, I whispered. Felt defeated. You can take what you need. Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd understand. Tommy said. He sounded so happy. Like I just gave him the best gift ever. Hung up the phone. I sat on my couch looking at all the things that would soon be gone. The TV where Tommy and I watched movies on Sunday afternoons. The refrigerator his dad bought when Tommy was little. He said, so our family will never be hungry. The paintings we picked together on our first anniversary. When we still believed we had a whole life to make memories. I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed awake thinking about what my house would look like after Tommy and Sarah took everything. Without the TV, the nights would be even quieter and lonelier. Without the refrigerator, I would have to buy food every single day like a helpless old woman. Without the paintings, the walls would be empty. No soul. A reminder of everything I lost. But what hurt most was knowing that these things full of loving memories would now be decorations in the house of a woman who hated me. The next few days were terrible. Every time I looked at my things, I felt like I was saying goodbye to old friends. I touched the TV, remembering afternoons watching Tommy's favorite cartoons when he was small. I opened and closed the refrigerator door thinking of all the meals I made for my family. I sat in front of the paintings trying to remember every detail, every color, every brush mark that once made my home feel alive. Tommy didn't call again for 2 weeks. I guess he was busy getting ready for the move. Or maybe Sarah told him not to talk to me until the day came to take my things. Not knowing ate at me. I didn't know when they would come, what they would take besides what we agreed on. If Tommy would come alone or with his wife. I tried to keep busy with sewing. But my hands shook so much that I messed up several times. I had to redo whole sections because I sewed them crooked. I couldn't focus. My heart was broken into 1,000 pieces. My eyes were always blurry with tears that wouldn't stop falling. People who hired me started asking if I was sick. My work wasn't good anymore. Mrs. Carter, are you feeling okay? Asked Mrs. Betty, my neighbor. I hadn't been eating right for days. I lost weight. You could see it on my thin face. No, I'm not sick, I lied. I tried to smile. Just tired from work. But Betty had known me for years. She could see something deeper was eating me up. And Tommy. I haven't seen him around in a while, she said as we shopped for vegetables. He got married recently, I managed to say without my voice breaking completely. He's very busy with his new life. Betty nodded. She understood. But I could see in her eyes that she knew all the sadness I was trying to hide. Children grow up and start their own families, she said quietly. She squeezed my arm with love. But that doesn't mean they stop loving us. If only she knew the truth, I thought. If she knew my son was about to empty my house. That his wife made me feel like I wasn't welcome in his life anymore. That every day I felt more invisible. More throwaway. But I couldn't tell anyone. Because saying it out loud would make it all too real. Too painful. The day finally came on a Tuesday morning. I heard the sound of the truck before I saw it. That loud metal noise that announced the moment I feared had arrived. I looked through my window. I saw Tommy getting out with 2 men I didn't know. Workers he probably hired for the move. Sarah came in her own car. A shiny silver car. She parked right behind the truck. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would jump out of my chest. My hands were sweating as I opened the door. I tried to smile, but nobody would believe it. "Hi, sweetie," I managed to say as Tommy came to say hello. His hug was quick, like a robot, like someone doing something they have to do, not something they want to do. "Hi, Mom. We brought helpers to make it faster," he said. He pointed to the two men who were already taking straps off the truck. "We don't want to bother you for too long." His words meant to be nice, but they sounded like my being there was a bother he wanted to end quickly. Sarah walked up wearing tight jeans and a shiny gold shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a perfect ponytail. She wore expensive sunglasses. She didn't take them off even when she came inside my house. "Hello, Mrs. Carter," she said to me with that fake smile I knew so well. "How exciting. We're finally going to make good use of all this stuff." "Ma'am, where should we start?" one of the workers asked. But he asked Sarah, not me. Like she owned my things. "First the TV," she said. She walked into my living room like she was shopping in a store. "That will look perfect in our main living room." Then the refrigerator. "But be careful. It's heavy." I stood frozen at my own door. I watched strangers start taking apart the TV. The TV that was the center of so many family nights. Tommy helped by pulling out wires. But he didn't look at me. It was like I made him uncomfortable. Like I was an awkward reminder of something he wanted to forget. "And these paintings?" Sarah asked. She pointed to the pictures his dad bought with so much love. "They're beautiful. They'll look gorgeous in our dining room." She walked to one of them. A picture of mountains that hung on that wall for over 20 years. She touched it like it was already hers. "Please be careful. They're very delicate," I whispered. I found my voice for the first time since they arrived. "My husband bought them on our honeymoon." Sarah looked at me over her dark glasses. Her face showed impatience mixed with looking down on me. "Don't worry, Mrs. Carter. We'll take good care of them. Besides, this way they'll still be in the family." But they wouldn't be in my family, I thought bitterly. They would be decorations in the house of a woman who did everything to erase me. Every time Tommy saw them, he wouldn't remember his father. He wouldn't remember our times together. He would remember the new life he built without me. The workers kept taking my things apart with professional speed. But I felt like they were taking my soul apart piece by piece. TV went first, carried by two men who had no idea how many movie nights I watched there with my son. Then came the paintings wrapped in blankets, like dead bodies prepared for burial. "This is for our new house. You don't need this anymore," I heard Sarah tell Tommy as she watched them move the refrigerator. Her words echoed in my head, a painful reminder of everything I lost. I didn't need the TV because I didn't have anyone to watch movies with anymore. I didn't need the big refrigerator because I wasn't cooking for a family anymore. I didn't need the paintings because I didn't have beautiful memories to keep anymore. Tommy finally came up to me as the workers were loading the last things on the truck. "Mom, I really appreciate you helping us," he said. He wouldn't look at my face. "This means a lot to us, especially to Sarah. She's very excited to decorate our house." "I'm glad you're happy," I managed to say. Each word burned my throat. "That's all that matters." Tommy nodded. He looked relieved, like he was scared I would make a scene, or change my mind at the last minute. "You're the best mom in the world," he mumbled. He gave me another quick hug. "I promise we'll come visit soon." But we both knew that promise was empty. Just words people say to be polite, not words they mean. Sarah had already done what she wanted. She made Tommy distance himself from me without forcing him. And now she had taken the last physical pieces of our life together. There was no reason for them to come back to this empty house, where an old woman who served her purpose now lived. I watched them get in the truck and their car, ready to leave for their new life filled with my memories turned into their decorations. Tommy waved at me from the truck window. For a moment, I saw a shadow of sadness on his face. Maybe deep in his heart, He knew something precious between us broke forever. The truck started with a loud roar. It drowned out any goodbye words I wanted to say. I watched them drive down the street. They took not only my belongings but also the last pieces of the family we once were. I stood at my door. My house was now empty and silent. I felt like I just watched my own funeral. When I closed the door after the truck disappeared, the silence was so loud it hurt my ears. It was a kind of quiet I never felt before. So deep and empty it felt heavy. My footsteps echoed on the bare walls like ghosts of a life that didn't exist anymore. The light squares on the wall where the paintings hung for so long looked like open wounds screaming about everything missing. I walked to the kitchen. The empty space where my refrigerator was hit me like a punch. For over 20 years, that corner was the heart of my home. Where I kept food I bought thinking of Tommy. Where I put his favorite drinks for when he visited. Now it was just a square of cleaner floor. A ghost mark of what my family life once was. The living room looked so sad without the TV. The table where it sat for so many years now looked bare and useless. Covered in light dust that showed exactly where the TV had been. I sat on my old couch. The only big piece of furniture they didn't take. I looked at the empty space where Tommy and I used to watch the news together every night. Where he told me about his day while we ate dinner. The first few nights were the hardest. Without the familiar sound of the TV, the house was filled with noises I never noticed before. The ticking of the wall clock sounded so loud now. The creaking of old wood. The whisper of wind coming through the windows. Every sound scared me. Reminded me how alone I was. How empty my life had become without the familiar things that made me feel normal. Eating became torture every single day. Without a refrigerator I had to buy tiny amounts of fresh food every day. That meant walking to the store with my shopping bag. Like a helpless old woman. Vegetables went bad quickly in the heat. Milk turned sour in just hours. Many times I went to bed with just dry bread and tea. Because I had no energy and no desire to cook for just me. Mrs. Betty was the first to notice the changes. "Carter, what happened to your TV?" she asked when she came over to borrow sugar one afternoon. "I always see the light from it at night." I didn't know what to say without sounding pathetic, so I made up a weak excuse. "It broke. I took it to get fixed." But Betty had sharp eyes. She saw the truck that Tuesday morning. "And your refrigerator broke too?" she asked. She looked toward the kitchen with growing worry. Her questions made me nervous. I didn't want anyone to know the shameful truth of what happened. I'm fixing up the kitchen," I lied awkwardly. "Tommy is going to help me pick new appliances." The lie tasted bitter in my mouth. But it was better than admitting my own son left me without basic things to live with dignity. The nights became endless. Without a TV to distract me, I sat in the dark. Even the light bulbs seemed too bright in my complete loneliness. My thoughts became a storm of blaming myself. Had I really been a controlling mother like Sarah said? Had I suffocated Tommy with my love so much that he needed to completely get away from me just to breathe? I thought about every conversation we had in recent years. I looked at every word, every action, searching for signs that he felt burdened by me. Maybe when I told him about my health problems, he saw it as manipulation. Maybe when I reminded him of past sacrifices, he saw it as making him feel guilty. Maybe Sarah was right, and I was blind to my own mistakes as a mother. The weeks dragged on like wounded animals. Tommy didn't call once to ask how I was, if I needed anything, or just to say hello. His silence hurt more than any cruel words could. It was like after taking my things, he also erased me from his mind and heart. I started losing weight because cooking for one person felt useless and depressing. My clothes hung loose on me. My cheeks looked hollow. My eyes had deep dark circles that showed I couldn't sleep. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a defeated old woman who looked like she aged 10 years in just a few weeks. My sewing work that had been my job and my pride for so long started to suffer. My hands shook so much from sadness I couldn't sew straight lines. My eyes filled with tears all the time. I couldn't see the small details. Several people complained about my work. Some canceled their orders. They took their fabric to another person who sewed. "Mrs. Carter, this bottom edge is completely crooked," said a woman who came to pick up her daughter's dress. "And these buttons don't line up. This isn't the good work you used to do." Her words felt like salt in an open cut. 'Cause she was right. My work had become messy, a reflection of the emotional chaos inside me. Losing money from my bad sewing made me spiral even deeper into despair. Not only had I lost my son and my most precious belongings, but now I was also losing my ability to take care of myself with money. The little savings I had disappeared quickly, buying food day by day without being able to store anything. One night, as I lay awake in my bed listening to the scary sounds of the empty house, I made a desperate decision. I reached for the phone. I dialed Tommy's number. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he could hear it through the phone. The phone rang once, 3 times. Then someone answered. "Hello," said Sarah's voice, cold and annoyed by the late call. "Sarah, it's Mrs. Carter," I whispered. My courage was fading. "I need to speak with Tommy, please." There was a long silence before she replied. "Tommy is busy, Mrs. Carter. What do you need?" I need help with a few things," I admitted. I felt humiliated but desperate. Without the refrigerator, I can't keep food. And without the TV, the nights are very long and— "Mrs. Carter," Sarah interrupted me. Her tone mixed impatience with talking down to me. "We thought you understood that Tommy needs space to focus on his new life. I just need to talk to him for 5 minutes," I begged. I hated myself for sounding so pathetic. "He's my son. I have a right to." "Tommy is sleeping," she cut me off sharply. "And he has a very long workday tomorrow. Besides, you yourself told us you didn't need those things. You can't change your mind now." The line went dead before I could respond. I was left holding the phone. My heart was shattered. Sarah had answered Tommy's phone like she was his personal guard, deciding who could talk to him and who couldn't. And I, his own mother, was now classified as a nuisance to be filtered out and blocked. That night, I cried until I had no tears left. My soul tore into pieces that couldn't be fixed. I had not only lost my son, I had lost my dignity, my home, my job, my reason for living. I had become an invisible, throwaway old woman. My only job had been to raise and sacrifice for a son who now saw me as an obstacle in his perfect life. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months of existing. I could barely call it life. I woke up each morning with no purpose. I dragged my bare feet across the cold floor of my empty house. The bathroom mirror showed a woman I didn't recognize anymore. With messy gray hair, hollow lifeless eyes, like my soul had slowly escaped, leaving only an empty shell. My savings ran out completely 3 months after Tommy took my appliances. Unable to keep fresh food and with my sewing work getting worse every day, I barely earned enough to buy bread and milk. Some nights I went to bed with an empty stomach. I listened to it growl with hunger as I tried to convince myself things would get better tomorrow. But every morning brought the same cruel reality. An abandoned old woman struggling to survive in a house that had become her prison. The shame reached its lowest point when Mrs. Betty brought me a plate of homemade food. "Carter, I made chicken soup and rice. I thought you might like it," she said. She smiled, but I could see worry in her eyes. I knew she noticed my weight loss, my hollow cheeks, the way my clothes hung on me like rags on a skeleton. "You didn't have to do that," I whispered. Tears filled my eyes. "It's no trouble, Carter. That's what neighbors are for," Betty replied. She handed me the warm bowl. The smell of chicken and rice made my mouth water right away. My stomach growled so loud we both heard it. "When was the last time you had a real meal?" she asked gently but firmly. I couldn't answer. The truth was too shameful. It had been 3 days since I ate anything but dry bread and water. That night, as I ate every spoonful of chicken soup and rice like it was the most delicious food in the world, I realized I hit rock bottom. I had become an old woman who depended on neighbors' charity. Because her own son abandoned her. The irony was bitter. For years, I sacrificed so Tommy would never be hungry. And now I was the one going to bed with an empty stomach. While he ate dinner in his new house with my appliances and his wife who pushed me away. It was during that time of complete desperation that the letter arrived. A letter that would change my life forever. It was a fancy envelope made of thick cream paper. My name was written in perfect handwriting I didn't recognize right away. The return address was from a law office downtown. That filled me with panic. I thought maybe I forgot to pay bills. Or some legal problem I didn't understand. I opened it with shaking hands. I expected a lawsuit or a notice to leave my house. But what I found left me completely breathless. It was a formal letter from a lawyer named Mr. Johnson. But attached was another personal letter. Written in handwriting I recognized right away even though I hadn't seen it in over 50 years. My heart started pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I read the signature at the end. David Morrison. My dearest Margaret, the letter started. That elegant handwriting instantly took me back to being 17 years old. After so many years of searching for you, my private investigator finally found you. You don't know how many nights I thought of you. How many times I wondered what happened to the most beautiful and kind woman I ever knew. I know many years have passed since we were separated. I know we both took different paths. But never, not for a single day, did I stop loving you. My hands shook so much I had to sit down to keep reading. David had been my first love. My teenage boyfriend. The man I dreamed of marrying before I met Tommy's father. But life separated us when he went away to study to be a doctor. I stayed here taking care of my sick grandmother. Later I heard he married a nurse. Had a very successful medical practice. Started a family. I never thought after so many years he would still remember me. 3 years ago, I lost my wife after a long fight with cancer, the letter continued. She was a wonderful woman. We were happy together. But her passing made me think about the time we have left. And the opportunities we let slip away. During her sickness, she told me she knew part of my heart always belonged to another woman. To my first love who I could never completely forget. Tears started rolling down my cheeks as I read his words. After so many years of feeling invisible, disposable, unloved, someone was writing to tell me they thought of me for decades. My wife made me promise that after she died, I would find the happiness I deserve. Even if it meant finding that woman from the past who never completely left my heart. That's why I looked for you, Margaret. Because I want to know if there's any chance we could meet again. Get to know each other as new people. And maybe build the years we have left together. My heart was pounding like a drum echoing in my empty chest. David told me that after selling his medical practice, he invested in businesses and was very successful. He had a large house outside the city. He traveled the world. But felt deeply lonely. I am 75 years old, Margaret. I don't want to wake up every morning in a silent house remembering what could have been. If you're still alive. If you're still single. If there's any chance you'd want to see me, please contact my lawyer. The letter had a phone number and address. Also a recent photo of David that took my breath away. He was still a handsome man. Distinguished. With completely white hair. But the same kind eyes I remembered from when we were young. He wore an elegant suit. He smiled with that same shy smile I fell in love with as a teenager. I built a successful life but it's empty, he wrote in the final part. I have money, properties, travels. But I have no one to share morning coffee with. Or watch a movie with at night. No one waiting for me when I come home. No one who worries if I'm late. No one who knows my stories from the past. Or who I can create new memories with. If you decide you want to meet the man I became, I promise I'll do everything I can to make you happy for the time we have left. I read the letter 3 full times before I could understand it completely. After months of feeling like a throwaway old woman whose only purpose was over, someone was telling me I was valuable. I was remembered. I was wanted. David didn't know me as the mother who failed. As the awkward mother-in-law. As the woman in the way of others' perfect lives. To him I was still Margaret, the young woman he fell in love with so long ago. I couldn't sleep at all that night. I stayed awake reading and rereading the letter, looking at David's photo, remembering our walks in the park when we were young, our dreams of the future, our promises of forever love that life interrupted. Was it possible that after so much pain, so much loneliness, so much rejection, fate was giving me a second chance to be happy? When the sun came up, I made a decision that took all the courage I had left in my soul. Bathed carefully, put on my best dress, the lavender one. I fixed my hair as best I could without a decent mirror. I walked to the public phone on the corner. With trembling hands, I dialed the number for Mr. Johnson from the letter. "Good morning. This is Margaret Carter," I said when someone answered. "I received a letter from Mr. David Morrison, and I would like to see him." On the other end, I heard a sigh of relief and joy. "Mrs. Carter, Mr. Morrison will be so happy you called. He's been waiting by the phone for days. Can you meet at my office this afternoon to arrange details?" That afternoon, I went to Mr. Johnson's law office. I felt nervous and hopeful, feelings I hadn't felt in so long. I wore my best lavender dress, the only one that still fit after losing so much weight. I tried to fix my hair as best as possible. But when I arrived at the fancy office building in the city center, I felt small and not good enough. Among all the people dressed in expensive suits and shiny shoes, the lawyer's office was impressive. Dark wood furniture, fancy carpets, huge windows overlooking the whole city. I sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than all my furniture combined. I felt my sweaty hands stain the fancy material. "Mrs. Carter," Mr. Johnson said with a real smile, "you don't know how happy I am to meet you. Mr. Morrison has told me so much about you. I feel like I already know you. He really wants to see me after all these years." Yes. My voice was shaking. The lawyer nodded with enthusiasm. "Ma'am, in my 30 years as a lawyer, I've seen many stories. But I've rarely seen someone as emotional as Mr. Morrison. When I told him we found you, he cried with joy. He literally cried. His words filled my heart with warmth I forgot existed. Mr. Morrison would like to invite you to dinner tomorrow night at the Grand Palace Hotel," the lawyer continued. He handed me a fancy envelope. "Here's the address and all the details. He'll take care of everything. The ride, the dinner, everything you need." I opened the envelope. Inside was not only the formal invitation but also a check for $500. "What is this?" I whispered. I was confused. "Mr. Morrison insists you buy a new dress for the occasion," the lawyer explained gently. "He says he wants you to feel like royalty, as you should have always felt." My eyes filled with tears. It had been so long since anyone cared about my well-being, my happiness, about making me feel special. "I can't accept this," I whispered. I looked at the check. "It's too much." "Mrs. Carter," the lawyer said. He leaned forward with a serious face. "Mr. Morrison is a very wealthy man. But more importantly, he's a man who waited more than 50 years for this moment. Please let him treat you special. He earned it after waiting so long." His words convinced me. Not because of the money, but because of the real love that showed in every one of David's actions. I left the law office with my heart full of mixed feelings. For the first time in months I felt hope, but also fear. What if David was disappointed when he saw me? I wasn't the 17-year-old girl he fell in love with anymore. I was 73, with wrinkles, gray hair, hands bent from years of factory work. What could a successful man who could probably choose any woman see in me? But I decided not to ruin this opportunity with my doubts. The next day I went to the fanciest store in the city, a place I never went before because everything was too expensive for me. With David's check in my purse, I went to a store that sold dresses for special events. "Good morning. How can I help you?" a young fancy saleswoman asked me. At first, she looked at me with some meanness, probably thinking I didn't have money to buy anything there. I need a dress for a very special dinner, I said. I tried to sound confident even though I wasn't. Something elegant but right for a woman my age. The saleswoman showed me several dresses. But when she saw I was willing to spend real money, her attitude changed completely. She helped me try on a beautiful light blue dress that made my skin look nice. It hid how thin I was. She also suggested shoes, a small purse, and even a hair salon where they could style my hair. "You look beautiful," the saleswoman said when I looked at myself in the full mirror. And for the first time in months, I saw myself as beautiful too. The dress made me look dignified, elegant, like a lady who deserves respect and love. "This dress was made for you," she added. She fixed some details. "Your date won't be able to take his eyes off you." After buying the dress, I went to the hair salon she recommended. A professional stylist took care of my gray damaged hair. "We're going to give you a modern cut and soft color to cover the gray," she said. She looked at my face. "You have very nice features. You just need to bring them out a bit." 3 hours later, when I looked in the mirror, I almost didn't know myself. I looked like a completely different woman. Someone worthwhile. Someone worthy of being loved. The night of the dinner came faster than I expected. A well-dressed driver arrived at my house exactly at 7 o'clock. In a black car that shined like a mirror. My neighbors looked curiously through their windows. They wondered what was happening at the poor widow's house who never got visitors. I felt like Cinderella going to the ball as the driver opened the door for me with ceremony. The Grand Palace Hotel was the fanciest in the city. A place where only very rich people went for special celebrations. The lobby had marble columns, crystal lights hanging from the ceiling, carpet so thick my steps made no noise. The hotel manager was waiting for me at the front desk. "Mrs. Carter, Mr. Morrison is waiting for you in the main restaurant. Please let me take you there." My heart was beating so fast as I walked down the elegant hallway. I thought everyone in the hotel could hear it. How would David receive me? Would he be disappointed when he saw me in person? Would we have anything to talk about after so many years apart? All my fears disappeared when we reached the restaurant entrance. I saw him waiting for me. David was standing by a window table, dressed in an elegant gray suit. His white hair perfectly combed. Those same kind eyes I remembered from our youth. When he saw me, his face lit up with a smile so real and full of joy that my eyes filled with tears. "Margaret," he whispered. He walked to me with open arms. "My dear, beautiful Margaret." His hug was warm, long filled with decades of stored love and new hope. "You're more beautiful than I remembered," he whispered in my ear. And from the sound of his voice, I knew he meant it. It wasn't empty politeness. It wasn't someone lying to be nice. It was real admiration from a man who dreamed of this moment for over 50 years. "David, I can't believe you looked for me after all this time," I said. He took my hands in his. I noticed they were also shaking slightly. "Margaret, I spent more than 50 years wondering what would have happened if we hadn't been separated. Now I finally have the chance to find out." We sat at the table he specially reserved for us, overlooking the hotel's lit gardens. The waiter brought us champagne without us asking. "Courtesy of David. To reunions worth waiting for," he toasted. He raised his glass. "And to second chances life gives us." For the next 3 hours we talked non-stop, catching up on our lives, remembering moments from our youth, laughing like the years hadn't passed. David told me about his career as a doctor, his travels around the world, his happy marriage. But he always kept a special place for the memory of our first love. I told him about my marriage, about Tommy, about the years of hard work. But I left out the most painful details of my current situation. "Margaret," he said. He took my hand across the table as dinner was ending. "I know this may sound rushed after just one night, but I don't want to waste another day. Would you like to come live with me? Not as a guest, but as my partner. As the woman you should have always been in my life." David's words left me breathless. Live with him. After a lifetime of sacrifice, of loneliness, of feeling invisible and disposable, a wonderful man was offering me not just love but a new life filled with dignity and respect. "David," I whispered. Tears started rolling down my cheeks. I don't know what to say. This is like a dream." "Then say yes," he replied gently. He squeezed my hand. "Margaret, I have a large house that feels empty without the right person to fill it with life. I have more than enough money so you'll never have to worry about that again. But more importantly, I have a heart that's been waiting to come home to you for over 50 years." His words were like healing medicine to my wounded soul. That night, David took me to see his house. A beautiful mansion outside the city, with huge gardens, water fountains, rooms filled with art and books. "This would be your room," he said. He showed me a complete suite with a balcony overlooking the garden. "But I hope one day when you feel ready, you'll share mine." His respect for my pace, his gentleness, his way of making me feel like royalty after years of feeling like a beggar moved me to tears. "Yes," I finally said. I surprised myself with how firm my decision was. "Yes, I want to live with you, David. I want to try to be happy again." His smile lit up the whole room. When he hugged me, I felt like I found the home I'd been searching for my whole life without knowing it. The next few days were like living in a fairy tale. David sent his staff to my old house to pack my few belongings and bring them to the mansion. He bought me new clothes, took me to elegant restaurants, showed me the city like I was a tourist visiting a magical place. "I want to make up for lost time," he would say whenever I protested his generosity. "I want to give you everything you should have always had." But life has curious ways of completing circles. 3 weeks after moving in with David, while enjoying breakfast in the garden of our home, I received a call that would change everything again. It was Tommy. For the first time in months, his voice sounded desperate. "Panic. Mom. Where are you?" he yelled into the phone. There was obvious panic in his voice. "I went to your house and it's empty. The neighbors said you moved but they don't know where. Are you okay? Where are you living?" The irony was cruel. For months, I prayed for a call from him. Now that it finally came, I didn't need it anymore. "I'm fine, Tommy," I answered. Felt calm. That surprised me. "I'm living with someone very special." There was a long silence on the other end. Like Tommy couldn't process what he just heard. "With someone? Who?" His voice cracked. "Mom, what's going on?" "With David Morrison," I replied. I felt strange satisfaction as the tables turned. A wonderful man who loves and values me as I deserve to be valued. Tommy's breathing became fast and rough, like he was having a panic attack. "Mom, I need to see you. We need to talk. Can you give me the address where you are?" "Why do you want to see me, Tommy?" "Yes." My voice was colder than I knew I could be. "You didn't call me once for months. When I tried to contact you, your wife hung up on me. What's suddenly so urgent?" I heard crying on the other end. For a moment, my mother's heart softened. But David took my hand, giving me strength. "Mom, please," Tommy sobbed. "Sarah and I. Things are not good between us. She left me. She ran away with another man. Took all our money. I lost my job too because the company went out of business. I have no one else, Mom. You're all I have left." Tommy's words hit me like reality slapping my face. Sarah, the woman who made me feel like a burden, who manipulated my son to push him away from me, had turned out to be exactly what I saw from the beginning. A heartless gold digger. And now Tommy, after months of ignoring me, came running back to Mom when his perfect world collapsed. "I'm very sorry, Tommy," I said honestly. Because despite everything, he was still my son. It pained me to see him suffer. But I can no longer be your safety net every time things get tough. For 73 years I lived for others, sacrificing for others. I finally found someone who wants to live for me. "Mom, please. Just give me a chance to explain everything," Tommy begged. His voice was breaking apart. "I was wrong. I was terribly wrong. Sarah made me believe you were the problem. That I had to choose between you two. I was an idiot. Bad son. But now I understand everything. Tommy, I said firmly but without cruelty. You can come visit me if you want. But on my terms. This is the address. I gave him David's address and hung up. I felt a mix of sadness and freedom. David hugged me from behind as I looked out at the garden. Are you okay, my love? He asked in that sweet voice I learned to love so fast. I know it must be hard to hear your son suffering. I turned in his arms. I looked him in the eyes. I'm fine, I said honestly. For the first time in years, I am where I deserve to be. 2 days later, Tommy arrived at the mansion in an old beat-up car. Very different from the new truck he used to take my things. When David opened the door, I saw Tommy's eyes fill with shock at the luxury around him. Good morning, David said politely but firmly. You must be Tommy. I'm David Morrison, your mother's partner. Tommy entered the house like he was in a trance. He looked at the elegant furniture, the works of art, the fresh flower arrangements David had delivered every week to brighten my day. Mom, he whispered when he saw me coming down the grand staircase. I wore a turquoise dress David bought me. You look incredible. Thank you, Tommy, I replied. Kept my composure. Please sit down. Would you like some coffee? David makes delicious coffee. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Now I was the one offering hospitality in an elegant house, while Tommy was the uncomfortable, out-of-place visitor. Mom, I need you to know how sorry I am, Tommy began. Tears filled his eyes. Sarah manipulated me. She made me believe you were controlling, that you were stopping me from being happy. She convinced me I had to choose. And I chose wrong. I chose very wrong. What happened to Sarah? I asked. No emotion in my voice. Tommy hung his head in shame. She left with my boss. Turns out they were having an affair for months. She took all our money. Sold the furniture. She even took the paintings that were yours. Everything you let me take, she took from me in one night. The poetic justice wasn't lost on me. The paintings his father bought with so much love. The TV where we shared so many nights. The refrigerator that stored family meals for decades. All ended up in the hands of a woman who disappeared from Tommy's life as fast as she appeared in mine. Mom, Tommy continued. He looked at me with desperation. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but could you help me one more time? I have nowhere to live. No job. Nothing. I only have you. His words took me back to all the years I spent being his salvation, his support, his constant sacrifice. But this time things were different. Tommy, I said gently but firmly. I forgive you because you're my son. I'll always love you. But I can no longer be your solution to every problem. Found my own happiness. I'm not going to sacrifice it again for anyone. David came closer. He placed his hand on my shoulder. Tommy, he said with authority but without cruelty. Your mother has suffered enough. Now it's time for her to live for herself. I can help you find a job and a place to live. But on one condition. That you respect the new life your mother built. Tommy looked at both of us. Finally understood he lost his mother forever. Not through death. But by choosing the love of a manipulative woman over the unconditional love I gave him his whole life. I understand, he whispered. And you're right. Mom deserves to be happy. 6 months later, David and I got married in a small but beautiful ceremony in the gardens of our home. Tommy was there. He already had a job David helped him get. Living alone. But finally learning to be independent. During the ceremony, as David and I exchanged rings, I knew I found not only a second love but a second chance to live the life I always deserved. And you, who listened to me this far, what would you do in my place? Would you have forgiven so easily? Would you have taken the second chance at love life offered you? Sometimes losing everything is exactly what we need to find what we truly deserve. 5 years have passed since that terrible day when Tommy and Sarah arrived with the truck to take everything I had left. Now, as I write these words from the terrace of my beautiful home, surrounded by flowers David plants especially for me, I can't help but smile. I remember how silly I was to think my life ended at 73. David and I live like newlyweds, traveling the world, discovering places I only saw in magazines, eating in elegant restaurants where waiters treat me like royalty. Every morning I wake up in silk sheets, have breakfast on fine china, dress in clothes that make me feel beautiful. But the most important thing is waking up next to a man who looks at me every day like I'm the most precious gift life ever gave him. Tommy comes to visit us once a month. Always respectful, always grateful. He learned to live alone, to work hard, to value simple things he once took for granted. Sometimes I see him looking at our house with nostalgia, not for the luxury, but for the love that fills every corner. "Mom," he said on his last visit, "I never thought I'd see you so radiant, so happy. I'm glad someone is finally giving you everything you always deserved." Rebecca, as we found out by chance, lost all the money she stole from Tommy in bad business deals. Now she lives in a tiny apartment working as a clerk. The man she left my son for abandoned her when the money ran out. Life has perfect ways of delivering justice without us lifting a finger for revenge. A few months ago, David proposed something that filled my heart with joy. "Margaret, would you like us to help other women going through what you went through? We now have a foundation that helps elderly women abandoned by their families. We give them money support and emotional support. We remind them it's never too late to start over." Mrs. Betty, my old neighbor, comes to visit often. She never stops telling me I look like a different person. "Carter, your skin is glowing. Your eyes are bright. You walk tall like a queen," she says, laughing. "What's your secret?" And I always give her the same answer. The secret is being with someone who loves you for who you are, not for what you can give. The old house where I lived so many years of loneliness is now rented to a young family with small children. Sometimes I pass by on my way to the market. I hear laughter coming from the windows, see children's clothes hanging in the yard, smell home-cooked food. It makes me happy to know those walls that once witnessed my sadness now house the happiness of others. My hands are no longer rough from desperate survival work. Now I use them to touch David's face, to write letters to women in our foundation, to plant flowers in our garden. My eyes no longer cry from loneliness, but from happiness every time David brings me coffee in bed, or sings me songs from our youth. Yesterday I turned 78. David organized a surprise party in the garden, with all the women from our foundation, with Tommy and his new girlfriend, a simple, hard-working girl who treats me with real respect, with Betty and other neighbors who never expected to see me living as an elegant and respected lady. When I blew out the candles on my cake, I made a very simple wish, that all women who feel invisible, disposable, worthless, find their own David, not necessarily a man, but that person, that situation, that opportunity that reminds them of their worth, and restores the dignity they should never have lost. During the party, one of the women from our foundation came to me crying. "Mrs. Carter," she said, "you saved my life. When I came here 6 months ago, I thought I had nothing left to offer the world. Now I know the best years of my life can be ahead of me, not behind." These words reminded me of something important. Sometimes we have to hit rock bottom to realize we deserve to be at the top. Sometimes we have to lose everything to discover we're much more valuable than we thought. Sometimes we have to be rejected by the wrong people to be found by the right ones. If there's one thing I learned in these last few years, it's that it's never ever too late to start over. Doesn't matter how old you are, how many mistakes you made, how many people made you feel worthless. There's always a second chance waiting somewhere. And to you who reached the end of my story, I want to tell you something important. Don't let anyone make you feel you're disposable. Don't sacrifice your happiness for people who don't value your sacrifices. Don't settle for crumbs of love when you deserve the whole feast. Life is too short to live feeling small. invisible, worthless. You are important. You are valuable. You deserve to be loved and respected. And if someone can't see that, then they're not the right person to be in your life. Now I'm going to finish writing this, because David is waiting for me to go for a walk in our garden, holding hands like two teenagers in love. At 78, I finally understood that true love knows no age. And that happiness is always, always worth the wait. And you, what are you waiting for to claim the life you deserve? Remember, dear friend, that your worth isn't measured by how much you give to others. It's not measured by how much you sacrifice. Your worth is in who you are, in your kind heart, in your ability to love, in your strength to keep going even when life knocks you down. Don't wait until you're 73 to realize you deserve happiness. Don't wait until you lose everything to understand your value. Start claiming your worth today, right now, this very moment, because you, yes, you deserve a life filled with love, respect, and dignity. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, but now. My story isn't just my story. It's the story of countless women who give and give until there's nothing left, who sacrifice until they disappear, who love until they're invisible. But it's also a story of hope, of second chances, of new beginnings, of finding yourself when you thought you were lost forever. If an old woman like me could start over at 73, then you can start over at any age. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late. Don't let anyone make you feel you've served your purpose. Don't let anyone convince you your best days are behind you. Your best days can start right now. Today, this moment. I look back at the woman I was 5 years ago. Hungry, alone, abandoned, with an empty house and an emptier heart. I barely recognize her. That woman thought her life was over. She thought she had nothing left to give, nothing left to be. But she was wrong. So beautifully, wonderfully wrong. Because inside that broken woman was a fighter, a survivor, a woman who deserved love, who deserved respect, who deserved a second chance at happiness. And when that chance came, she was brave enough to take it. Even though she was scared. Even though she doubted. Even though part of her wanted to stay small and invisible because that felt safer. She chose to be brave. She chose to believe she deserved more. And that choice changed everything. So I ask you again, dear friend, what are you waiting for? What's holding you back from claiming the life you deserve? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Is it guilt? Is it the voices of people who told you to stay small? Whatever it is, I'm here to tell you those chains are breakable. Those voices are wrong. That fear can be overcome. You have one precious life. One beautiful, irreplaceable life. Don't waste it living for people who don't appreciate you. Don't waste it being small when you were meant to shine. Don't waste it waiting for permission to be happy. The only permission you need is your own. David always tells me something beautiful. He says, "Margaret, you didn't find me. You found yourself first. And that's when I could find you." He's right. The moment I decided I deserved better. The moment I stopped accepting crumbs. The moment I walked away from people who didn't value me. That's when everything changed. Not because David came into my life, but because I finally saw my own worth. David was the beautiful bonus. Cherry on top. But the real transformation happened inside me when I said, "No more. I deserve better." That's the moment everything shifted. When I stopped begging for love from people who had none to give. When I stopped trying to earn worthiness I already had. When I stopped shrinking myself to fit into spaces too small for my soul. Today, as I sit in my beautiful garden surrounded by flowers and love and peace, I sometimes think about Sarah. I don't hate her. I actually feel sorry for her. She's living in a small apartment now. Working a job she probably hates. Alone with the consequences of her choices. She thought she was so clever. She thought she won by pushing me out of Tommy's life. By taking my belongings. By making me feel small. But she didn't win anything. She lost. She lost the chance to be part of a real family. She lost a good man who would have been loyal to her. She lost everything chasing money and status. While I, the woman she considered worthless, found real love, real happiness, real peace. And Tommy, my sweet boy, learned hard lessons, painful lessons, but necessary lessons. He learned that love from a mother is irreplaceable. He learned that people who make you choose between them and your family aren't people worth choosing. He learned that real love doesn't manipulate, doesn't control, doesn't isolate. Real love brings people together, builds bridges, creates families, not destroys them. He visits us regularly now. He's rebuilding his life slowly, with humility, with gratitude, with a new understanding of what really matters. His new girlfriend is nothing like Sarah, is kind, is simple. She respects me. She never makes Tommy choose. She understands that loving him means respecting the people who raised him. And for that I'm grateful. Do I still feel sad sometimes about the years I lost? About the pain I endured? About the humiliation of watching my son strip my house bare? Course I do. I'm human. Those memories still sting. But I don't let them define me anymore. They're part of my story. But they're not the ending. They're the middle, the dark part, the valley. But valleys exist between mountains. And I'm on a mountain now. A beautiful, sunlit mountain where the air is clear and the view is magnificent. I had to walk through the valley to get here. There was no other way. But I made it. And if I made it, you can too. The foundation David and I started has helped over 200 women so far. 200 women who were abandoned, neglected, made to feel worthless by their families. We give them financial support to get back on their feet. We give them counseling. We give them community. We give them hope. And watching these women transform, watching them go from broken to whole, from invisible to radiant, that's become my new purpose, my new joy. Every woman who walks through our doors carrying shame and pain, every woman who leaves standing tall with dignity restored, that's my victory. That's my revenge, if you can call it that. Not hurting the people who hurt me, but helping the people they hurt. That's real power, real transformation. One woman, Rosa, came to us 6 months ago. Her children had abandoned her in a nursing home and never visited, never called. She felt like trash thrown away when no longer useful. She had given up on life, was just waiting to die. But we helped her get her own apartment, connected her with other women in our community. Now she volunteers at a children's library reading stories to kids. Her face glows with purpose, with joy, with life. She told me last week, "Mrs. Carter, you gave me my life back. Thought I was done. But I'm just beginning." Stories like Rosa's fill my heart to overflowing. 'Cause I was Rosa. I was the woman waiting to die in an empty house. And someone gave me a second chance. Now I get to give that gift to others. So my final words to you, dear friend, are these. Never ever give up on yourself. Never believe the lie that you're too old, too broken, too far gone, too insignificant. Those are lies. Wicked lies designed to keep you small and manageable. The truth is you're powerful. You're valuable. You're worthy. You're deserving of every good thing. Love, respect, dignity, joy, peace, comfort, beauty. All of it. It's all yours. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to deserve it. You already do. Just by being you. Just by existing. Just by having the courage to keep breathing when life tried to suffocate you. That makes you a warrior. A survivor. Champion. Even if nobody told you. Even if nobody saw it. See it. And I'm telling you now. You are magnificent. Don't wait for others to validate you. Don't wait for the people who hurt you to apologize. They probably never will. And that's okay. You don't need their apology to be free. You don't need their validation to have worth. You carry your worth inside you. It's been there all along. Waiting for you to notice. Waiting for you to claim it. So claim it. Today. Right now. Say it out loud if you have to. I am worthy. I am valuable. I deserve good things. Say it until you believe it. Because it's true. So devastatingly, beautifully true. And once you believe it, once you really know it in your bones, everything changes. The people who disrespected you suddenly lose their power. The situations that trapped you suddenly open up. The life you dreamed of suddenly becomes possible. Not because the world changed, but because you did. I'm 78 years old now. Living in a beautiful mansion with a man who adores me. Traveling the world. Helping other women find their worth. Living a life I never imagined possible. But 5 years ago, I was starving in an empty house. Abandoned by my only child. Believing my life was over. What changed? Not my circumstances. Not at first anyway. What changed was me. I decided I deserved better. And that decision changed everything. So make that decision for yourself today. Decide you deserve better. Decide you're done accepting crumbs. Decide you're worthy of the whole feast. And then watch. Watch as the universe conspires to prove you right. Watch as doors open you didn't know existed. Watch as your life transforms in ways you never dreamed possible. Happen for me. Can happen for you. Believe in you. Now you just need to believe in yourself. Welcome to your new beginning, dear friend. Welcome to the life you always deserved.